Have you ever wondered what would happen if the Jedi and Nightsisters were a team? Today we are going to explore the galaxy far, far away to discover what would happen if the major events from the universe were altered. What if Ahsoka joined Maul? How about if Fives had exposed the reason behind the chips? We will explore all these questions and more as we ponder. What if the Jedi aligned with the Nightsisters during the Clone Wars? The Clone Wars raged across the galaxy, leaving destruction and despair in their wake. The Jedi Order, stretched thin by the conflict, sought unconventional allies to counter the growing strength of the Separatists and the dark schemes of the Sith. On the shadowed world of Dathomir, the Nightsisters, mysterious wielders of ancient magics, held powers the Jedi scarcely understood. Despite centuries of mistrust, the Jedi Council, desperate for an advantage, decided to forge a fragile alliance. The council chamber on Coruscant was bathed in solemn light, the faces of its members etched with weariness. Mace Windu leaned forward, his tone grave. The Separatists grow stronger with each passing day. We need allies, ones capable of countering the unknown threats the Sith continue to unleash. Yoda closed his eyes, his voice heavy with caution. Dangerous, this path may be, but necessary, it feels. Anakin Skywalker stood beside his master, Obi-Wan Kenobi, arms crossed. The Nightsisters? They're practically Sith themselves. How can we trust them? Obi-Wan, ever the diplomat, responded calmly. We don't have to trust them, Anakin. We only need their cooperation. Their knowledge of the Force is different from ours, perhaps enough to tip the scales in our favor. Mace turned to the pair. Kenobi, Skywalker, you will go to Dathomir. Convince the Nightsisters to aid us. But tread carefully. Their loyalty lies only with themselves. The Jedi ship descended onto the crimson world of Dathomir, its surface cloaked in mist and shadow. Towering trees with twisted roots surrounded the landing site, their gnarled forms casting eerie silhouettes. Anakin frowned as they approached the Nightsisters' village. This place feels wrong, like the Force itself is twisted. Obi-Wan nodded, his hand brushing the hilt of his lightsaber. Stay alert. The Nightsisters are powerful, but their methods are not ours. Remember why we're here. At the edge of the village, a figure emerged, a tall woman with pale skin and piercing eyes. Mother Talzin stood before them, her presence commanding. Talzin's lips curved into a faint smile. Jedi, you come seeking favors from those you once scorned. What makes you think the Nightsisters will help you? Obi-Wan stepped forward, bowing slightly. Mother Talzin, the Sith threaten us both. If they win this war, neither the Jedi nor the Nightsisters will survive their dominion. Talzin tilted her head, her voice like silk laced with steel. And what will you offer in return? We do not act without purpose. Anakin's impatience flared as he stepped forward. We offer the chance to stop the Sith, unless you'd prefer to wait until they destroy you too. Talzin's piercing gaze flicked to Anakin, her smile widening. Bold. And yet, perhaps he speaks the truth. Very well, Jedi. We will consider your offer. But first, a test of your sincerity. Talzin led the Jedi to a vast arena, its walls carved with runes glowing faintly in the dim light. Nightsisters gathered in the shadows, their presence unsettling. She raised a hand, her tone commanding. To prove your worth, you will face the Witch's gauntlet. Succeed, and we shall discuss an alliance. Fail, and your corpses will feed the roots of Dathomir. Obi-Wan and Anakin exchanged wary glances but stepped forward. The gauntlet began with a burst of dark energy, the air thickening with oppressive power. Nightsister illusions materialized, their forms twisting into grotesque apparitions. Anakin ignited his lightsaber, the blue blade casting a stark contrast against the shadows. "This is your idea of diplomacy, Obi-Wan?" Obi-Wan deflected a spectral blade with his saber. "Not my first choice, no." The Jedi moved in perfect synchronization, their blades flashing as they countered the illusions. Anakin's raw power and Obi-Wan's precise technique balanced each other, cutting through the Nightsisters' challenges. As the final illusion dissolved, Talzin clapped slowly, her expression unreadable. "Impressive. Perhaps the Jedi are not as blind as I thought. Very well, we shall aid you. But know this, if you betray us, there will be no mercy." The uneasy alliance between the Jedi and the Nightsisters began to bear fruit. With their magics woven into Republic battle strategies, the tide of the war shifted. The Separatists, caught off guard by the Nightsisters' unconventional methods, struggled to adapt. On the battlefield, Asajj Ventress, once an enemy of the Jedi and now a reluctant ally, fought alongside Anakin Skywalker. Despite their history, the two warriors displayed a fierce and effective partnership. During one mission to liberate a Separatist-controlled mining world, the Nightsisters conjured mist to obscure the battlefield, disorienting droid forces. Anakin surged through the chaos, his lightsaber a blur. Ventress followed close behind, her twin red blades carving a deadly path. "Try to keep up, Ventress," Anakin called, his tone taunting. She smirked, deflecting blaster bolts. "Careful, Skywalker. I might just outshine you." Despite the victory, tensions simmered beneath the surface. The Jedi struggled to reconcile their principles with the Nightsisters' ruthless tactics. Meanwhile, Mother Talzin's interest in Anakin deepened. Back on Dathomir, Talzin summoned Anakin to the heart of the Nightsisters' temple under the guise of seeking his input on battle strategies. The chamber was dimly lit, its walls pulsating with a faint green glow. The air was heavy with an unnatural energy. "Skywalker," Talzin began, her voice smooth and inviting. "Your strength is remarkable, but you carry such turmoil within you." Anakin's brow furrowed. "If you called me here to lecture me about my emotions, you're wasting your time." Talzin stepped closer, her piercing gaze never leaving him. "I called you here to offer you freedom. The Jedi chain you with their rules, their blind devotion to a flawed code. I can help you reach your true potential." Before Anakin could react, Talzin raised her hands, and the chamber filled with swirling green mist. The magic engulfed him, seeping into his mind and body. Anakin cried out, his body convulsing as the spell took hold. His eyes glowed with a sickly green hue, and when he spoke, his voice carried an unnatural echo. "The Jedi. Their time is over." Talzin smiled triumphantly. "Good. Now, my chosen champion, lead us to victory." The next battle was a nightmare for the Jedi. Under Talzin's control, Anakin turned on his comrades. His lightsaber moves were precise and devastating, his power in the Force amplified by Nightsister magic. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka confronted him during the battle, desperation etched on their faces. "Anakin, stop this!" Obi-Wan shouted, his voice strained. "Whatever Talzin's done to you, fight it." Anakin's glowing eyes fixed on his former master. "The Jedi betrayed me. Talzin has shown me the truth." Ahsoka stepped forward, her tone pleading. "Master, this isn't who you are. You're stronger than this." For a brief moment, her words seemed to pierce the darkness. But Talzin's spell tightened its grip, and Anakin attacked with renewed ferocity. The Jedi Council, recognizing the danger, authorized a full-scale assault on Dathomir. Republic ships descended on the Crimson World, their forces clashing with Nightsisters and their magics. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka led a team to the Nightsisters' temple, determined to free Anakin. Inside, they found him standing before Talzin, her hands glowing as she reinforced her control. "Anakin, please," Ahsoka cried. "This isn't you." Anakin turned, his voice cold and distorted. "The Jedi are blind. The galaxy needs a new order." Obi-Wan ignited his lightsaber, his face resolute. "If you truly believe that, then you leave me no choice." The battle that followed was fierce. Anakin, augmented by Talzin's magic, fought with overwhelming power. Obi-Wan and Ahsoka struggled to match him, their bond as allies their only advantage. Talzin joined the fray, unleashing waves of dark energy. Obi-Wan was thrown aside by one of her blasts, leaving Ahsoka to face Anakin alone. "Master, listen to me," she shouted, her voice filled with desperation. "You taught me to trust the Force, to fight for what's right. Don't let her take that away from you." For a moment, Anakin hesitated. His glowing eyes flickered, and his expression softened. "Ahsoka?" Talzin roared, pouring more energy into her spell. But Anakin, summoning all his willpower, turned the magic back on her. The dark energy erupted, consuming Talzin in a blinding flash. As the dust settled, Anakin collapsed, his body weakened but his mind free. Obi-Wan helped him to his feet. "Anakin, are you with us?" Anakin nodded weakly. "I'm sorry." The Nightsisters, leaderless and outnumbered, retreated into the wilderness. Ventress, who had watched from the shadows, vanished into the galaxy, her faith in the Nightsisters shattered. Back on Coruscant, the Jedi Council deliberated the consequences of the alliance. "This alliance has cost us dearly," Mace Windu said gravely. Yoda nodded. "Learn from this. We must. Balance. The Force still seeks." Anakin, recovering in the temple, struggled with the weight of his actions. Ahsoka stayed by his side, her presence a quiet reassurance. "You came back, Master," she said softly. "That's all that matters." Anakin's gaze was distant. "But at what cost?" "Talzin's magic. It showed me things. Darkness I didn't know was inside me." Obi-Wan placed a hand on his shoulder. "You resisted her in the end. That's what matters." Despite their victory, the scars of Dathomir lingered. The Jedi had glimpsed the fine line between light and dark, and Anakin, the Chosen One, stood at its edge. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one. What if Ahsoka joined Maul on Mandalore? The throne room of Mandalore echoed with the hum of lightsabers. Ahsoka Tano stood poised, her blue blades clashing against Maul's crimson saber. His words gnawed at her resolve as they fought. "The Jedi have failed," Maul declared, his voice dripping with conviction. "The Republic is crumbling, and soon, the galaxy will belong to the Sith. Join me, Ahsoka. Together, we can survive what's coming." "You only care about your survival, Maul," Ahsoka retorted, her grip on her sabers tightening. "You're no better than the Sith you claim to despise." Maul smirked, his eyes glinting with dark amusement. "Perhaps. But unlike them, I offer you a choice. Help me stop the true enemy, or watch the galaxy burn." Her hesitation was brief, but significant. With a reluctant sigh, Ahsoka deactivated her lightsabers and stepped back. "I'll work with you, for now. But cross me, Maul, and I'll end this alliance myself." Ahsoka returned to her troops, who stood warily outside the palace. Their expressions reflected confusion and concern as they awaited her orders. "Listen to me," Ahsoka began, her voice firm. "We're in danger. Something's happening to the Jedi, and I believe we're being targeted. Rex, I need you to cut all external communications." Rex frowned, his brow furrowing. "What are you talking about?" "Just trust me," she replied urgently. "If we stay connected, we'll be compromised." Though hesitant, Rex obeyed her orders. The 332nd Legion severed their connection to the Republic's network, unknowingly saving themselves from the catastrophe of Order 66. As they left Mandalore, Ahsoka Tano sat tensely at the ship's communication console, trying desperately to reach the Jedi Council. Each attempt yielded nothing but static or frantic, garbled messages from clones on the verge of chaos. Ahsoka frowned, her voice filled with frustration. "I can't reach anyone. It's just static." Darth Maul stood nearby, his arms crossed as he observed her efforts with cold detachment. "Then it's too late," he said. "The Jedi are already finished." Ahsoka turned to glare at him, her blue eyes burning with defiance, but she couldn't bring herself to argue. Deep down, she feared he might be right. Ahsoka turned to the ship's navicomputer. Her hands trembled as she plotted a course. Set a course for Coruscant. If anyone knows where Anakin is, it's Padme. When their ship descended through the smoggy skies of Coruscant, a horrifying sight awaited them. The Jedi Temple, once a symbol of hope and peace, stood engulfed in flames. Smoke curled into the heavens, and the faint echo of alarms carried through the air. Ahsoka's breath caught in her throat as she took in the devastation. The temple grounds were littered with the bodies of Jedi, younglings, and temple guards, their lightsabers extinguished beside them. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "We're too late." Maul stood at her side, a grim smile playing on his lips. "This is what happens when you place your faith in weakness," he said, his voice dripping with disdain. Ignoring him, Ahsoka moved cautiously through the ruins, her heart heavy with grief. Amidst the carnage, she and Maul encountered Obi-Wan Kenobi and Yoda. Both looked battered but resolute, their survival a testament to their skill and tenacity. Obi-Wan's expression hardened the moment he saw Maul. "Ahsoka," he said sharply, "what is he doing here?" Ahsoka met Obi-Wan's glare with steady determination. "We're working together. For now," she replied. "We don't have time to argue. Anakin's alive, and he's fallen to the dark side." The group exchanged solemn glances before splitting up. Obi-Wan and Yoda departed to confront Palpatine, while Ahsoka and Maul prepared themselves for the daunting task of facing Anakin Skywalker. Ahsoka found Padme in her apartment, grief-stricken but determined. The senator's eyes widened in surprise at Ahsoka's sudden appearance. "Ahsoka, what are you doing here?" Padme asked, her voice laced with worry. "I need your help," Ahsoka said urgently. "Anakin, something's happened to him. Do you know where he is?" Padme hesitated, torn between her love for Anakin and the fear gnawing at her heart. Finally, she nodded. "He's on Mustafar. I'll take you to him." Unbeknownst to them, Maul and the 332nd Legion followed in a second ship. Yoda and Obi-Wan moved silently through the opulent halls of the Senate building, their footsteps masked by the distant hum of Coruscant's never-ending activity. They entered the Chancellor's private chambers, where Palpatine sat, his expression a mix of smug satisfaction and malevolence. Palpatine smiled as he stood to greet them. "Master Yoda, Master Kenobi, how predictable." "We've come to end your tyranny," Obi-Wan said, his tone cold and resolute. Palpatine rose, his crimson blade igniting with a menacing hiss. A sinister smile spread across his face. "Then by all means try." The room erupted into chaos as Yoda and Obi-Wan ignited their lightsabers. The green and blue blades clashed against Palpatine's crimson, filling the air with sparks and the roar of battle. Padme and Ahsoka arrived on Mustafar, the planet's rivers of lava reflecting the turmoil in Anakin's heart. They found him standing at the edge of a platform, his eyes glowing with Sith corruption. "Padme, Ahsoka, why are you here?" Anakin asked, his voice low and dangerous. "We came to save you, Anakin," Padme pleaded, her eyes welling with tears. "Please, come back to us." "This isn't you, Anakin," Ahsoka added, her tone firm yet sorrowful. "You've been manipulated by the Sith." Anakin's expression twisted with anger. "I brought peace to the galaxy. I ended the Jedi's corruption." Before the conversation could continue, Maul's ship landed nearby, and the 332nd troopers poured out, led by Rex. "Skywalker," Maul declared, igniting his dual-bladed lightsaber. "Your destiny ends here." As the duel raged on Mustafar, Padme's voice broke through the chaos. "Anakin, stop. Think about our child. Think about us." Her words pierced through Anakin's rage, and for a moment his blade lowered. Doubt clouded his mind. "Padme." But Maul seized the moment, lunging at Anakin and driving his blade through his chest. "No!" Ahsoka cried out, horror etched across her face. Anakin collapsed to his knees, his expression a mixture of shock and betrayal. Padme screamed, rushing to his side, but Maul merely smirked, his blade still ignited. "You were a tool, Skywalker," Maul sneered. "A pawn in Sidious's game. And like all pawns, you've been sacrificed." Rex and the troopers erupted into action, their blasters firing at Maul. Jesse led the charge, his aim true, but Maul was a whirlwind of red light and dark power. In one swift move, he deflected the shots and hurled Jesse aside with the Force. "Jesse!" Rex shouted, his voice breaking as he rushed to his fallen comrade. But it was too late. Jesse lay motionless. Ahsoka's anger boiled over. She ignited her lightsabers and charged at Maul, their blades colliding in a clash of light and sound. The two combatants moved with deadly precision, their duel a storm of fury and grief. The remaining troopers provided cover fire, forcing Maul to retreat. His escape was swift, but not before Ahsoka landed a decisive blow, severing one of his mechanical legs. He snarled in pain but disappeared into the shadows, vowing revenge. The aftermath on Mustafar was a scene of devastation. Anakin lay barely conscious, his breath shallow. Padme knelt beside him, her tears falling onto his burned skin. "Ahsoka," she whispered, her voice trembling. "We need to save him." Ahsoka hesitated, her heart torn. "Padme, he's gone too far. I don't think he can be saved." "No," Padme said firmly, her gaze locking onto Ahsoka's. "He can't be gone." Reluctantly, Ahsoka nodded. She and Rex carried Anakin onto their ship, his life hanging by a thread. As they departed Mustafar, Ahsoka couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy's future now rested on a knife's edge. Back on Coruscant, Ahsoka and Rex regrouped with Obi-Wan and Yoda in the ruins of the Jedi Temple. The survivors were few, their numbers decimated by the Purge. Yoda leaned heavily on his cane, his voice somber. "A heavy cost this war has had. Rebuild, we must." "Palpatine escaped," Obi-Wan added, his expression grim. "He's still out there." Ahsoka squared her shoulders, her resolve hardening. "Then we'll find him. Together." The galaxy mourned its losses as the surviving Jedi began the arduous task of rebuilding. The clones, led by Rex, underwent surgery to remove their inhibitor chips, finally free from Palpatine's control. As the sun rose over the horizon of Coruscant, Ahsoka stood on the steps of the ruined temple, her gaze fixed on the future. The fight was far from over, but she vowed to honor the sacrifices of those who had fallen and to forge a new path for the galaxy. And so, with hope flickering like a distant star, the Jedi began their journey toward a new dawn. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one. What if ARC troopers were granted command over Jedi from the beginning? When the Clone Wars erupted, the Republic chose a controversial course of action. The Senate, skeptical of the Jedi Order's ability to command large-scale armies, placed the elite ARC troopers in charge of the Republic military. Trained specifically for battlefield leadership, these troopers embodied precision and pragmatism. The Jedi, revered as peacekeepers but considered inexperienced in warfare, were relegated to the roles of advisors and frontline operatives. From the outset, the ARC troopers demonstrated their tactical brilliance. Leaders such as Alpha 17, Rex, and Cody orchestrated precision strikes, ambushes, and decoys that consistently outmaneuvered the separatist droid armies. The Jedi, wielding their lightsabers and the Force with devastating effect, became powerful assets under clone command. However, they deferred to the clones on all strategic matters. The Republic's campaigns were marked by early victories, yet the unconventional command structure bred tension. The Jedi struggled to reconcile their role as guardians of peace with the cold efficiency of war, while the ARC troopers often viewed the Jedi's moral hesitations as potential liabilities. Under ARC command, the Republic forces adopted ruthless tactics. Civilian casualties and scorched earth campaigns became a grim norm. Planets were liberated, but often at the expense of their infrastructure and populations. General Grievous, the cold and calculating leader of the separatist forces, escalated the war's brutality under Count Dooku's orders. Droid armies began targeting civilian populations, hospitals, and supply lines. In the heat of these moral conflicts, Obi-Wan Kenobi voiced his concerns to Captain Rex. "We cannot call ourselves protectors of the galaxy if we leave entire worlds in ruins," Obi-Wan said, his voice heavy with frustration. "With respect, General Kenobi," Rex replied evenly, "protecting the galaxy means winning this war. Anything less is surrender." This growing divide between the Jedi's ideals and the clones' pragmatism deepened, casting a shadow over their alliance. As the war intensified, Palpatine introduced a terrifying new weapon, the Dark Trooper Initiative. These advanced droids, equipped with cutting-edge armor and weaponry, posed a severe threat to the Republic's forces. The Republic's initial encounters with the Dark Troopers were disastrous. Entire battalions were annihilated, forcing the ARC troopers to adapt quickly. The clones devised counter-strategies to exploit the Dark Troopers' weaknesses, but their effectiveness came at a high cost in lives. The Jedi Order grew increasingly uneasy with their subordinate role in the war. Many Jedi felt that the clones' brutal tactics eroded the Republic's moral foundation. Despite their protests, the Senate and the public remained firmly behind the ARC's results-driven approach. During a mission on Felucia, Ahsoka Tano expressed her frustration to Rex. "This isn't just a war, Rex. These are people's lives we're destroying," she exclaimed. Rex's response was curt. "It's a war because it's about people's lives, Ahsoka. We win, or they lose everything." Such tensions simmered across the galaxy, as Jedi began to question their place in a conflict that seemed to abandon the principles they stood for. In a desperate bid to counter the Dark Troopers, the Republic launched a high-stakes mission to destroy a separatist manufacturing facility on Hyperi. The operation, led by Alpha 17, featured Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi in supporting roles. The assault was a masterpiece of strategy. Republic forces used stealth, diversion, and overwhelming firepower to breach the facility. However, the scale of the Dark Trooper threat became starkly clear. Thousands of these deadly droids were already in production. The mission succeeded, but at a heavy cost. The Jedi, horrified by the casualties, confronted the ARCs. This war is becoming a slaughter, not a defense of the Republic, Mace Windu argued, his voice firm. Alpha 17 replied without hesitation. War is slaughter, Master Windu. We're just making sure it's not ours. Under the Ark's leadership, the Republic began to turn the tide of the war. Separatist strongholds fell one after another, and victory seemed within reach. Yet the cost was staggering. Planets liberated by the Republic lay in ruins, and reports of civilian casualties spread, fueling further discord between the Jedi and the clones. Heron 4, a vital industrial hub for the Separatists, became the stage for one of the war's most brutal campaigns. The planet's fortifications were formidable, with factories embedded in cliffs and protected by layered shields and artillery. In the command center, Alpha 17 outlined his plan to the gathered Jedi advisors, including Anakin Skywalker and Luminara Unduli. We'll draw their fire with a diversionary assault on the Western Front. While they're distracted, insertion teams will disable the shield generators. Once the shields are down, orbital bombardment will clear the way. Luminara frowned. Orbital bombardment? There are civilians in those factories. Alpha 17's tone was firm. The factories are the objective. Civilians are collateral damage. If we don't destroy those facilities, billions more will die in the war. As the battle unfolded, the Republic forces executed the plan with ruthless precision. Despite devastating losses, the operation succeeded, leaving Heron for a smoldering wasteland. The Separatists launched their final assault on Coruscant, throwing their remaining forces, including waves of dark troopers, into the fight. The Arks transformed the capital into a fortress, rallying the Republic's defenders with unyielding determination. In the heart of the battle, Alpha 17 faced General Grievous in a brutal confrontation. "You're just another droid to scrap, Grievous," he said coldly. Grievous sneered. "Your arrogance will be your undoing, clone." The showdown ended with Grievous retreating, his forces in disarray. As dawn broke over Coruscant, the Republic celebrated its triumph. Yet the Jedi, weary and disillusioned, felt the cost of victory weigh heavily on their shoulders. "We won the battle," Obi-Wan said quietly, "but I fear we've lost something greater." Alpha 17's reply was resolute. "We did what was necessary. That's the only way to win a war." In the shadows, Palpatine smiled. His ultimate plan was nearing completion. With the Separatists nearly defeated, the Republic began consolidating its power. The Senate lauded the ARC troopers as heroes, crediting their leadership for the Republic's survival. However, the galaxy was far from united. The Jedi Order, disillusioned and fractured, struggled to reconcile their diminishing role with the brutal realities of the war. Anakin Skywalker, grappling with his own frustrations, confided in Obi-Wan. "We've sacrificed everything, Master," Anakin said, his voice strained. "Our ideals, our brothers, even our sense of right and wrong. And for what? A galaxy that's barely holding together." Obi-Wan placed a hand on Anakin's shoulder. "We must believe that what we've done will lead to peace. Otherwise, all this loss will be for nothing." But even Obi-Wan's conviction wavered. The war had changed them all. With the Separatists all but defeated, Palpatine issued a chilling new order. The Jedi were to be eliminated as threats to the Republic's stability. Operation Nightfall began, and the ARC troopers, alongside their brethren, were given a single directive: wipe out the Jedi. However, unlike their fellow clones, the ARCs were not fitted with inhibitor chips to enhance their independence and tactical judgment. Some questioned the order's legitimacy, particularly when it came from a single individual rather than the Senate. Rex and Alpha 17 convened secretly with Anakin Skywalker, seeking answers. "This doesn't feel right," Rex said. The Jedi aren't our enemies. Alpha 17's gaze was sharp. Skywalker, you've been close to the Chancellor. Why is he doing this? Anakin hesitated, the weight of his divided loyalties visible on his face. Palpatine believes the Jedi are plotting against him. I stand with him. The tension in the room was palpable. The war was no longer just a battle for the galaxy. It had become a battle for the soul of the Republic itself. The arcs, torn between loyalty and morality, found themselves at a crossroads. Some complied with Order 66, believing in the Republic's cause. Others refused, forming secret resistance groups alongside Jedi survivors. Alpha 17 and Captain Rex led one such faction, determined to uncover the truth behind the war. Partnering with Jedi like Ahsoka Tano and Obi-Wan Kenobi, they began piecing together the extent of Palpatine's manipulation. Meanwhile, the Dark Troopers, initially deployed as weapons against the Separatists, were reassigned to hunt down dissenters. Palpatine's vision of a galaxy under his iron grip was coming to fruition. On Coruscant, the Senate convened for an emergency session called by Palpatine. Here he transformed the Republic into the Galactic Empire. As he delivered his triumphant address, a strike team led by Alpha 17 and Obi-Wan infiltrated the Senate building, intent on exposing his Sith identity to the galaxy. The confrontation was swift and brutal. Palpatine, revealed as Darth Sidious, unleashed his dark power, effortlessly fending off the attackers. "You cannot stop the inevitable," he sneered, his voice dripping with malice. Obi-Wan and Alpha 17 fought valiantly, but Sidious's strength was overwhelming. It was only with the unexpected arrival of Anakin Skywalker that the tide began to turn. Anakin, torn between loyalty to the Jedi and the lure of the dark side, finally made his choice. He confronted Sidious in a climactic duel, his lightsaber clashing against the Sith Lord's crimson blade. "Your greed has destroyed the Republic," Anakin shouted, his fury matched only by his resolve. "And your weakness will destroy the galaxy," Sidious retorted. In the end, it was Anakin's humanity that prevailed. With a final, desperate strike, he defeated Sidious, bringing an end to the Sith Lord's reign. The galaxy was left in ruins, but the seeds of hope remained. The Republic, though fractured, began rebuilding under a new coalition of leaders, Bail Organa as the figurehead. Anakin Skywalker, scarred but redeemed, vowed to dedicate the rest of his life to restoring peace. The ARC troopers would be remembered as the warriors who turned the tide of the Clone Wars. And in the darkness of the galaxy, a faint light emerged, a testament to the resilience of those who dared to fight for a better tomorrow. Drop the scenarios you would like to see in the comments, and I will pick one every week. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one. What if Pong Krell successfully betrayed the Republic? The betrayal of Pong Krell became one of the Republic's darkest moments during the Clone Wars, a chilling reminder of how easily trust could be exploited. On Umbara, his treachery unraveled, leading to devastating consequences for the clones and the Republic as a whole. General Pong Krell was a towering figure, both physically and in presence. His 4 arms, wielding dual double-bladed lightsabers, made him a terror on the battlefield. On Umbara, his unorthodox and often brutal commands sowed chaos among the clone forces. The clones, loyal yet suspicious, began to piece together his true motives. Rex and Fives, determined to uncover the truth, gathered evidence of Krell's betrayal. Their revelation came too late. Krell had already manipulated the 501st and the 212th Battalions into attacking one another, disguising each unit as the enemy. The battlefield descended into chaos. Clones fired on their brothers, their helmets obscuring the familiar faces beneath. Fives, realizing the ruse, screamed into his comm link, "Cease fire! Cease fire!" We're shooting at our own men. The realization spread like wildfire, but the damage was done. Hundreds of clones lay dead, their blood soaking the jungles of Umbara. With the clones' forces divided and demoralized, Krell revealed his true allegiance to Count Dooku. "The Republic is doomed," Krell declared, his deep voice reverberating in the dim light of his stronghold. "I will not fall with it. The future lies with the Sith." Rex and his remaining forces stormed Krell's base, determined to bring him to justice. The traitorous Jedi met them head-on, his lightsabers spinning in a deadly blur. The clones fought valiantly, but Krell was unstoppable. His mastery of the Force allowed him to hurl troopers into the air and deflect blaster bolts with ease. Clone after clone fell, their courage no match for his overwhelming power. "You betrayed everything the Republic stands for," Rex shouted, his blasters trained on Krell. "You betrayed your brothers." Krell smirked. "You are pawns, nothing more. I serve a greater purpose." Before Rex could fire, Krell unleashed a force wave, sending him and his squad flying. Using the confusion, Krell vanished into the dense jungles, leaving a trail of destruction in his wake. Krell made his way to Dooku's palace on Sereno, where he pledged his loyalty to the Sith cause. Recognizing Krell's raw power and ruthless tactics, Dooku welcomed him into the fold. "The Republic has underestimated the power of betrayal," Dooku said with a sly smile. "You will be an invaluable asset, General Krell." Under Dooku's command, Krell led a devastating campaign against Republic strongholds. His intimate knowledge of clone tactics made him a fearsome adversary. Republic forces fell to his brutal strategies, entire battalions wiped out by his calculated strikes. The betrayal of Pong Krell sent shockwaves through the Republic. Jedi generals across the galaxy tightened their security, wary of further treachery. The clones, already grappling with their individuality and purpose, grew distrustful of their Jedi commanders. Rex, haunted by the events on Umbara, spearheaded the Republic's efforts to track Krell down. "We can't let him get away with this," Rex said, his voice resolute. "He's not just a traitor. He's a murderer." Alongside Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi, Rex led a task force to counter Krell's campaigns. The Republic's pursuit of Pong Krell culminated in a massive confrontation on the war-torn planet of Gargan. Krell had fortified the planet, using his knowledge of Republic strategies to anticipate their every move. The battle was a brutal slog. Krell, now wielding dark side powers taught by Dooku, was a nearly insurmountable foe. His tactics forced the clones into dire situations, often turning their own strengths against them. Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi led the charge, determined to bring Krell to justice. The duels were intense, Krell's unorthodox fighting style keeping even the seasoned Jedi on edge. Months after Umbara, the Republic finally received a lead. One of Rex's scouts intercepted a transmission hinting at Krell's location, a heavily fortified separatist base on the remote jungle planet of Vardos. Republic command deliberated, but Supreme Chancellor Palpatine personally vetoed the mission, deeming it too risky. For Anakin Skywalker, however, orders were often mere suggestions. "If we wait for approval, Krell will vanish again," he said firmly. "I'm not letting him slip through our fingers." Rex, though reluctant, shared Anakin's resolve. Together they handpicked a team: Fives, Jesse, Kix, and a squad of the 501st's most elite troopers. R2-D2 accompanied them aboard a small stealth craft, and under the cover of darkness, they set out for Vardos. Landing in the dense jungle, the team moved swiftly to locate Krell's stronghold. The sprawling fortress was surrounded by droid patrols and natural defenses. With R2-D2 slicing into the separatist network, they identified a blind spot in the perimeter. Moving silently through the underbrush, The clones disabled sentries and slipped past turrets. Inside, tension filled the air. Krell's presence was palpable, an ominous weight pressing down on them. "If Krell really is here," Fives whispered, his voice low, "we'll need more than luck to survive." Rex's reply was firm. "Stick to the plan. We hit hard and fast. No hesitation." The team reached the control room undetected. Krell stood at its center, looming over a holographic map and barking orders to droid commanders. His imposing frame was clad in dark robes, and his yellow eyes glowed with the power of the dark side. Without turning, Krell spoke, his deep voice resonating through the room. "Did you think I wouldn't sense you coming, Skywalker?" Krell ignited his dual double-bladed lightsabers, the crimson blades humming ominously. He moved with terrifying speed, leaping into the air and slamming into the clones' ranks, scattering them like leaves. "Keep him distracted," Anakin shouted. "Rex, with me." The clones fired in coordinated bursts, but Krell deflected their shots with ease. His crimson blades became a whirlwind of death, and the Force allowed him to fling troopers across the room with devastating power. "Hold your ground," Rex ordered, his voice unwavering. "Don't let him split us up." Fives hurled a thermal detonator, but Krell caught it mid-air with the Force and hurled it back. Anakin intercepted the explosive with his own telekinesis, tossing it harmlessly aside before engaging Krell in a fierce duel. "You are strong, Skywalker," Krell taunted as their lightsabers clashed. "But you lack the conviction to truly use your power. I've seen what your conviction brings. Death and betrayal," Anakin retorted, his movements precise and relentless. Meanwhile, the clones regrouped. R2-D2, plugged into a nearby terminal, worked to override the fortress's security systems. Doors slammed shut behind advancing droid reinforcements, buying the team precious seconds. The battle pushed the team to their limits. Krell's overwhelming strength and mastery of the dark side took its toll. Kicks tended to the wounded as Fives and Jesse coordinated a desperate counterattack. R2-D2 finally succeeded in opening an escape route, a service tunnel leading out of the fortress. R2-D2 beeped urgently, his tone insistent. "R2's got us a way out," Rex shouted. "Fall back." Anakin held Krell at bay, his face grim with determination. "Go," Anakin commanded. "I'll hold him." "Not without you, General," Rex countered. The clones launched a final volley, forcing Krell to retreat momentarily. Seizing the opportunity, Anakin and Rex led the team into the tunnels, with R2-D2 sealing the doors behind them. Krell, furious, pursued them through the fortress. His dark power allowed him to smash through obstacles, rapidly closing the distance. The team barely stayed ahead, navigating the labyrinthine corridors with R2's guidance. In the final stretch, Krell unleashed a force attack that caused the tunnel to collapse behind them. The team emerged onto a cliffside landing pad, where their ship awaited. As the ship ascended, Krell stood on the edge of the cliff, his lightsabers ignited, glaring after them with seething hatred. "This is far from over, Skywalker," Krell growled, his voice filled with venom. On board the ship, the team tended to their injuries in silence. The cost of the mission weighed heavily on them, but they had survived, and sent a clear message. "He won't forget this," Fives said solemnly. "Neither will we," Anakin replied, his tone heavy with resolve. The ship's engines roared as Anakin, Rex, and the others broke through Vardos's atmosphere, their battered team safe but haunted by their narrow escape. The tension on board was palpable, each trooper silently assessing the toll Krell had taken on them. The comms crackled to life. Ahsoka's voice came through, her tone light and teasing. "Sky Guy. Don't be mad, but I might have told Obi-Wan about your little off-the-books mission." Anakin's eyes narrowed as he glanced at Rex, who looked equally confused and annoyed. "Ahsoka, please tell me you're joking," he said, his voice edged with irritation. Before she could reply, the starry expanse outside the viewport lit up. A massive Venator-class Star Destroyer emerged from hyperspace, flanked by smaller Republic ships. "General Kenobi," Rex muttered under his breath as the Venator launched waves of Republic gunships, followed by squadrons of ARC-170 starfighters. From the bridge of the massive vessel, Obi-Wan Kenobi coordinated the full-scale assault. Turbolasers rained down on Krell's stronghold, reducing the jungle surrounding the base to flames and rubble. Deep within the fortress, Pong Krell sensed the arrival of Republic forces. His sharp eyes glinted with fury as he muttered, "Kenobi, always meddling." Droid reinforcements scrambled to defend the base, but Krell's rage grew unchecked. Marching to the command center, his ignited lightsabers illuminated his path as he cut down his own subordinates in a fit of anger. Outside, the Republic's assault began with relentless precision. Attis rumbled through the dense jungle, their cannons blasting apart droid defenses. Clone troopers advanced in tight formation, their blaster fire coordinated and deadly. Overhead, gunships obliterated emplacements and cleared paths for the infantry below. Inside the stronghold, Krell directed his forces to target the Venator's hangar bays, hoping to cripple Obi-Wan's reinforcements. But the Jedi general had anticipated the move. He personally led a strike team of clones to infiltrate the base and disable its shields. Aboard the fleeing ship, Anakin paced back and forth, his frustration evident. "Look, Master," Ahsoka explained over the comms, her tone defensive but playful. "I didn't think you'd mind having some backup. And considering you're still alive, I'd say it worked out." "Worked out?" Anakin shot back, exasperated. "We barely got out of there in one piece. You had no idea Krell wouldn't sense the entire Republic fleet coming. And yet," Ahsoka replied smugly, "you're welcome." Anakin sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. Rex, standing nearby, chimed in. "General, with all due respect, we're lucky she did. Krell had run us off the planet." Before the argument could continue, the ship's scanners picked up a massive explosion on the planet below. Anakin and Rex turned to the viewport in time to see Krell's fortress engulfed in a chain reaction of detonations. The Republic fleet had broken through the defenses and destroyed the base. In the heart of the collapsing stronghold, Krell fought with unrelenting fury. His crimson blades spun through the air, carving through squads of clones as if they were nothing. The fortress shook violently under the relentless bombardment from Republic artillery. As the command center crumbled around him, Krell unleashed a final, defiant roar. The structure gave way, burying him in a storm of fire and debris. From the Venator's bridge, Obi-Wan watched as the stronghold disappeared into a massive plume of smoke and rubble. His expression was calm but resolute. "Have our scouts search the wreckage," he instructed Cody. "I want confirmation, alive or dead." "Yes, General," Cody replied, already relaying the order. Anakin's ship docked with the Venator, and Obi-Wan awaited him on the hangar deck. Arms crossed, the older Jedi greeted him with a raised brow. "I see you've been busy, Anakin. Care to explain this unsanctioned mission?" Anakin met his gaze without flinching. "We had a lead. I wasn't going to let Krell slip away again." Obi-Wan sighed, his disapproval tempered by understanding. "Well, thanks to Ahsoka's foresight, we've dealt a major blow to the Separatists. But there's no confirmation Krell is dead." "He's buried under half a mountain," Ahsoka interjected confidently. "If he survived that, we've got bigger problems." The weight of the mission lingered as the group moved into the debriefing room. Despite their best efforts, Pong Krell's fate remained unknown. Scouts combed the wreckage for days, but found no trace of the rogue Jedi. As the Republic regrouped, whispers of Krell's survival began to circulate among the clones. The man who had once been their general was now a spectre haunting their thoughts. For Anakin, the uncertainty was a gnawing doubt. Though the galaxy had one less shadow looming over it, he couldn't shake the feeling that Krell's story wasn't finished. For now, however, the Jedi and the Republic had earned a momentary reprieve, a fleeting calm in the ever-raging storm of the Clone Wars. Drop the scenarios you would like to see in the comments, and I will pick one every week. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one. What if Ahsoka could not stop the Geonosian brainworms? The interior of the medical transport ship was dimly lit, its corridors filled with a tense, oppressive silence. Ahsoka Tano and Barriss Offee moved cautiously, the air thick with the knowledge of what they faced, the parasitic Geonosian brainworms. Barriss had already been infected, her actions driven by the sinister control of the worm writhing inside her. Ahsoka, determined to save her friend and the clones aboard, had barely managed to subdue her. With a quick move, she froze the worm that emerged from Barriss's mouth, encasing it in ice with the medical station's cryotech. Relief washed over Ahsoka, but it was short-lived. Behind her, one of the infected clones stirred, his blaster in hand. Before Ahsoka could sense the danger, he fired. The stun blast struck her square in the back. Ahsoka crumpled to the floor, unconscious. When Ahsoka awoke, a searing pain shot through her head. Her limbs felt heavy, and her mind clouded with unfamiliar thoughts. She tried to reach out through the Force, but something alien pulsed within her, dampening her connection. The worms had taken her. The infected clones stood around her, their eyes vacant and glowing faintly. Barriss stepped forward, her voice distant and almost mechanical. "You will join us. We serve the will of the Queen." Ahsoka struggled, but the worm's influence grew stronger, rooting itself deep within her mind. The ship continued its course to the medical station, where Jedi Master Kit Fisto awaited them, unaware of the darkness aboard. What if Ahsoka could not stop the Geonosian brainworms? The interior of the medical transport ship was dimly lit, its corridors filled with a tense, oppressive silence. Ahsoka Tano and Barriss Offee moved cautiously, the air thick with the knowledge of what they faced, the parasitic Geonosian brainworms. Barriss had already been infected, her actions driven by the sinister control of the worm writhing inside her. Ahsoka, determined to save her friend and the clones aboard, had barely managed to subdue her. With a quick move, she froze the worm that emerged from Barriss's mouth, encasing it in ice with the medical station's cryotech. Relief washed over Ahsoka, but it was short-lived. Behind her, one of the infected clones stirred, his blaster in hand. Before Ahsoka could sense the danger, he fired, the stun blast striking her square in the back. Ahsoka crumpled to the floor, unconscious. The transport docked with the station. Kit Fisto, ever calm and confident, greeted the clones as they disembarked. Fisto smiled faintly. "You've made it safely. Any sign of the infection spreading further?" The clones nodded, their faces unreadable. Behind them, Ahsoka and Barriss walked in perfect step, their expressions eerily serene. Fisto's connection to the Force hummed with unease. Something was wrong. Before he could react, the infected clones turned on him. Blaster fire erupted in the hangar. Fisto ignited his lightsaber, deflecting bolts with ease. "What are you doing?" "Stand down," he called out. Ahsoka and Barriss ignited their own lightsabers, advancing on him with synchronized precision. Ahsoka's distorted voice rang out. "The Queen commands your submission." Fisto leapt into the fray, his green blade a blur as he parried their attacks. His skill was undeniable, but the sheer number of infected clones forced him back. He realized too late that his opponents weren't trying to kill him. They were herding him into a corner. Barriss lunged, her blade locking with his. In that moment, one of the clones struck from behind, injecting Fisto with a worm. The Nautolan Jedi cried out as the parasite took hold, his body convulsing before he fell to his knees. With Kit Fisto under their control, the infection spread rapidly through the medical station. Clones and medical personnel fell one by one, overwhelmed by the relentless advance of the brainworms. The infected operated with a hive mind, coordinating their efforts to strengthen their numbers and fortify the station. The Queen's influence grew stronger with every new host, her reach extending across the galaxy. Ahsoka, Barriss, and Fisto stood at the helm, their abilities turned against their allies. Meanwhile, on Coruscant, Jedi Masters Mace Windu and Plo Koon received a garbled distress signal from the station. The voice was faint, filled with static, but one word was clear: worms. Realizing the gravity of the situation, the Jedi Council dispatched a task force, led by Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker, to investigate. As the Republic fleet approached the station, they were met with heavy resistance. The infected clones had repurposed the station's defenses, turning them on the approaching ships. Anakin, sensing Ahsoka's presence, grew increasingly desperate. "She's in there." "I know it," he said, his voice tight with worry. Obi-Wan placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "Then we'll have to save her. If we can." Anakin and Obi-Wan boarded the station amidst a hail of blaster fire, cutting their way through hordes of infected clones. The once bright halls were dark and oppressive, the air thick with the hum of the Queen's presence. They finally confronted the infected trio, Ahsoka, Barriss, and Fisto, in the command center. Anakin's voice cracked with emotion as he called out, "Ahsoka, fight it. You're stronger than this." Ahsoka hesitated for a fraction of a second, her eyes flickering with recognition. But the worm's grip tightened, and she lunged at her former master. The battle was intense, a deadly dance of lightsabers and force powers. Obi-Wan focused on Barriss, while Anakin tried desperately to break through to Ahsoka. "Ahsoka, it's me. Don't do this," Anakin pleaded. Her voice was cold and distorted. "I am one with the Queen. You cannot stop us." Nearby, Obi-Wan parried a fierce strike from Barriss, his voice steady. "Barriss, I know you're in there. Don't let them control you." But Barriss gave no indication of recognition, her movements mechanical and precise. Across the room, Kit Fisto fought with terrifying efficiency, his fluid strikes leaving little room for escape. "He's too fast," one clone shouted before falling to Fisto's blade. The Jedi pressed on, their desperation mounting. Anakin's determination reached its peak. With a powerful surge of the Force, he overwhelmed the parasite controlling Ahsoka. She gasped, collapsing into his arms as the defeated worm fell from her mouth. "You're okay now, Ahsoka." "It's over," Anakin said, his voice full of relief. Ahsoka trembled, her voice weak. "Not yet. Barriss, Kit Fisto, the others. We have to stop them." Obi-Wan, still dueling Barriss, called out over his shoulder. "I could use some help here." Anakin and Ahsoka leapt into action, joining Obi-Wan to subdue Barriss. Together, they used the Force to extract the worm controlling her, though it took every ounce of energy Ahsoka had left. She leaned against a nearby console, exhausted. "We're running out of time. Kit Fisto's still out there, and who knows how many more have been infected." As if on cue, The ship's alarms blared, signaling that Kit Fisto had taken control of the ship's systems. Kit Fisto's infection had rendered him almost unstoppable. The once serene Jedi Master unleashed a torrent of destruction, incapacitating clones and sabotaging the ship's engines. Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka tracked him to the engineering deck, where the final confrontation unfolded. "We need him alive," Anakin said firmly. "If we can capture a worm, maybe we can figure out how to stop this plague." Obi-Wan frowned. Easier said than done. The fight was fierce, with Kit Fisto using his mastery of lightsaber combat and aquatic agility to keep the Jedi at bay. Anakin devised a desperate plan. "Ahsoka, Obi-Wan, keep him distracted," he instructed. "I'll try to pull the worm out." As the two engaged Kit, Anakin reached out through the Force, targeting the parasite within him. The creature writhed and resisted, but Anakin's power overwhelmed it. The worm was ripped from Kit's body, leaving the Nautolan Jedi unconscious but alive. Ahsoka knelt beside the fallen Jedi. "We've got it. Now what?" Obi-Wan's expression was grim. "We need answers. Fast." Yoda nodded slowly. "A solution, find, we must. But how, uncertain it is." Anakin's voice cut through the tension. "We need someone who thinks differently. Someone who can analyze this parasite on a level we can't." The room fell silent as Obi-Wan hesitated before speaking. "There is one person who might be able to help, but his methods are controversial. Dr. Royce Hemlock." The name sent a chill through the room. Hemlock was a geneticist whose experiments had drawn widespread condemnation. Mace Windu's tone was sharp. "We cannot condone his methods." "We don't have a choice," Anakin countered. "If he can stop this, we have to try." Reluctantly, the council agreed. Dr. Hemlock was brought to Coruscant under heavy guard. The gaunt, sharp-eyed scientist examined the captured worm with unsettling fascination. "These creatures are fascinating," Hemlock murmured, his voice tinged with awe. "Their ability to manipulate the brain is unparalleled. If we can understand their biology, we might find a way to neutralize them." He proposed a bold plan: develop a neural disruptor that could sever the worm's connection to the hive mind. However, to perfect the device, he needed more live samples. "I need one from the Queen's original brood," Hemlock explained. "Without it, this is all guesswork." The Jedi realized this meant infiltrating Geonosis, the heart of the infestation. Anakin, Ahsoka, and Rex led a small strike team to Geonosis. The once barren planet now teemed with infected beings, their movements synchronized and eerie. Using stealth and cunning, the team infiltrated the hive. Wave after wave of infected beings confronted them, their numbers seemingly endless. "We're surrounded," Rex shouted, his blaster firing rapidly. "We need to move now." Anakin's voice rang out above the chaos. "Stay together. No one gets left behind." At the heart of the hive, they found the Queen, a grotesque, pulsating creature surrounded by her brood. Anakin and Ahsoka engaged the Queen, distracting her while Rex's team captured a sample worm from her nest. The escape was chaotic. The Queen unleashed her minions in a desperate attempt to stop them. R2-D2 proved invaluable, hacking into the hive systems to trigger a cave-in that buried the Queen and her brood, allowing the team to escape. The Republic fleet hovered above Geonosis, its warships casting long shadows over the desolate planet below. Anakin, Ahsoka, and Rex stood in the command center of their flagship, reviewing the mission's final details. Dr. Hemlock stood nearby, overseeing the deployment of his neural disruptor device. "We take down the Queen, and this nightmare ends," Anakin declared. "What's the status of the disruptor?" "It's ready," Hemlock replied, his tone clinical. Though deploying it within range of the Queen won't be easy. The Hive's defenses are bound to be concentrated there. That's why we're leading the ground team, Ahsoka added confidently. We'll get you close enough to deploy it. Rex nodded. We've faced worse odds. Let's end this. The Republic's forces landed near the Hive's central cavern, the ground team led by Anakin, Ahsoka, and Rex. Swarms of infected beings poured out to meet them, their movements eerily synchronized. They're endless, Ahsoka exclaimed as she cut down another wave with her lightsaber. Keep pushing. We're close, Anakin urged. Rex and his troopers formed a tight perimeter, their blasters mowing down attackers. Meanwhile, R2-D2 provided critical support, slicing into the Hive's defenses. As the team reached the cavern's heart, they faced the Queen. Her massive form pulsed with dark energy, and her screeches commanded the infected to fight with renewed ferocity. We need to deploy the disruptor here, Hemlock shouted over the din. Under heavy fire, the team activated the device. A pulse of energy emanated from it, temporarily disorienting the Hive. It's working, Anakin said, his voice filled with hope. But the Queen roared, and the device began to falter. Sparks flew from its core, and its energy pulse weakened. The Hive regained its coordination, and the tide of infected turned against the Republic forces. The device is failing, Ahsoka cried. What now? Hemlock's voice was strained. It needs time. Protect it at all costs. The battle descended into chaos. Troopers fell, overwhelmed by the unrelenting swarm. Anakin and Ahsoka fought valiantly, their lightsabers blazing as they defended the failing disruptor. We're getting overrun, Rex shouted. We need to fall back. No, Anakin roared. Hold the line. Amid the chaos, R2-D2 rolled forward, emitting a series of urgent beeps. R2, what are you doing? Ahsoka called out, alarmed. The astromech droid interfaced with the disruptor, overriding its damaged circuits. The device flared to life, unleashing a powerful wave of energy that rippled across the Hive. The Queen screeched in agony as the neural connection binding the worms shattered. One by one, the infected collapsed, freed from the Hive's control. It worked. It actually worked. Hemlock whispered, awestruck. Anakin seized the moment, leaping onto the Queen's massive form and delivering a fatal blow with the Force. The creature's body crumpled, and silence fell over the battlefield. With the Queen defeated, the Republic forces swept through the remaining Hive clusters, mopping up the remnants of the parasite's influence. Across the galaxy, populations once enslaved by the worms awoke, confused but free. Back on Coruscant, the Jedi Council gathered to discuss the victory. This was a victory hard-earned, but at a great cost, Mace Windu said solemnly. The galaxy will not forget the lives lost to this plague. Yoda nodded. Restored, balance has been. But vigilance, we must keep. Dr. Hemlock stood apart, observing the Council's deliberations. His work had saved the galaxy, but his methods remained controversial. Shortly after the victory, Hemlock was summoned to an audience with Chancellor Palpatine. The aging politician, cloaked in an air of mystery, greeted him with a warm but unsettling smile. Palpatine smiled. Dr. Hemlock, your brilliance has brought the Republic back from the brink. I cannot overstate my gratitude. I only did what was necessary, Chancellor, Hemlock replied cautiously. And that is precisely why I value you, Palpatine continued, his voice silken. Your methods, though unconventional, achieve results. I would like to offer you a permanent position within the Republic's research division. Hemlock hesitated before nodding. It would be an honor. Palpatine's smile deepened, his yellow eyes gleaming. Excellent. I have a project in mind that could use your unique talents. One that will shape the future of the galaxy. As Hemlock left the chamber, he couldn't shake the feeling that his work had only just begun, and that the galaxy's future was far from secure. Drop the scenarios you would like to see in the comments, and I will pick one every week. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one. What if Fives successfully exposed the truth about the inhibitor chips? Anakin Skywalker and Captain Rex stood trapped within the ray shield, tension thick as Fives desperately explained the truth about the inhibitor chips. His words were a mixture of urgency and desperation, each syllable striking deeper into their core. "They're not just in me," Fives insisted, his voice trembling. "They're in all of us. The chips, they control us. It's all a setup. A plan to use us against you." Before Anakin or Rex could reply, Commander Fox stormed in, his squad's blasters raised. "ARC Trooper Fives, stand down," Fox ordered sharply. "By order of the Chancellor, you're under arrest." Rex stepped forward, his voice firm but restrained. "Fox, you need to listen to him. Something's not right." Fox's expression hardened. "My orders are clear, Captain. Move aside." Anakin reached out through the Force, searching for answers. He felt distrust and fear emanating from Fox and his squad. When Fox aimed his blaster at Fives, Anakin acted. "Sorry about this, Commander," Anakin said, and a wave of the Force surged outward, rendering Fox and his men unconscious. Rex frowned, glancing at the fallen clones. "Was that really necessary, sir?" Anakin's tone was resolute. "We don't have time for debates, Rex. Grab Fives. We're leaving." In a discreet corner of Coruscant's labyrinthine underworld, Rex used a secure channel to contact Ahsoka Tano. "Ahsoka," Rex began, his voice heavy with urgency. "I know you wanted nothing to do with the Jedi after what happened. But this isn't about them. It's about the clones. About us. I need your help." Ahsoka hesitated before responding. "What's going on, Rex?" "It's Fives," Rex explained. "He found something. Something big. If he's right, it's not just about the war. It's about all of us. I need you to keep him safe while we figure this out." After a long pause, Ahsoka relented. "Bring him to me. I have a safe house in the underworld. We'll be off the radar." Ahsoka's safe house was nestled deep within the labyrinthine underbelly of Coruscant, fortified against the prying eyes of the galaxy's most relentless bounty hunters. "Fives," Ahsoka said as she secured the perimeter, "will keep you safe here. No one knows about this place." Fives frowned, glancing around warily. "If they put a bounty on me, they'll find us. Credits make people do things. Desperate things." Before Ahsoka could respond, the door shuddered with the unmistakable sound of a detonation charge. "Stay behind me," Ahsoka commanded. The blast tore through the entrance, smoke and debris filling the room. A squad of bounty hunters poured in, their blasters lighting up the dim space. Ahsoka ignited her twin lightsabers, their blue blades casting an eerie glow. The leader of the group, a gruff voice laced with malice, called out, "Hand over the clone, Jedi. You'll make this easier for everyone." Ahsoka's eyes narrowed. "You want him? You'll have to go through me." The room erupted into chaos. Ahsoka danced through the hail of blaster fire, her movements precise and deadly. She deflected bolts with expert precision, sending them ricocheting into the attackers. Fives took cover behind a console, his carbine picking off stragglers who tried to flank her. One bounty hunter, wielding a vibroblade, closed the distance. Ahsoka spun low, slicing the weapon in half before delivering a swift kick that sent him crashing into a wall. The leader, a hulking Trandoshan, advanced with a flamethrower. Flames roared across the room, forcing Ahsoka to leap onto the wall and flip over his head. She severed the fuel line with a clean stroke, sending the hunter sprawling in an explosion of sparks. As the last attacker fell, Fives emerged from cover, his breathing ragged. "They're not going to stop," he said grimly. "This bounty, it's too high." Ahsoka extinguished her lightsabers, her expression resolute. "Then we'll make sure no one knows where you are." Anakin and Rex infiltrated Kamino under the cover of darkness. Wearing civilian disguises and relying on the Force, Anakin avoided detection while Rex led them through secret access tunnels. Inside the cloning facilities, they found Ezi-3, the droid who had helped Fives before. Anakin addressed the droid, his tone firm. "We need to see the chips. Can you show us what they really do?" Ezi-3 hesitated, his photoreceptors flickering. "The chips are not standard health monitors. They're behavioral modifiers. Their activation can override all free will." Rex clenched his fists, anger flashing in his eyes. "They were going to turn us into slaves." Anakin gathered the data, his resolve hardening as he spoke. "We take this to the Council. No one else." Back on Coruscant, Anakin presented the evidence to the Jedi Council. Mace Windu's voice was heavy with suspicion. "These are grave accusations, Skywalker. If true, they implicate the highest levels of the Republic." Yoda's ears twitched as he added, "Dangerous, this truth is. But act we must." While the Council debated their next move, Anakin made a private decision. He sent Rex to Padme Amidala. Together, they began secretly spreading the truth. Messages were delivered discreetly to every Jedi with a clone battalion and every senator with clone guards. "Remove the chips." Whispers reached Palpatine, and he summoned Anakin to his office. The Chancellor's tone was urgent yet calm, a mask of practiced composure. "Anakin, my boy," Palpatine began, his voice dripping with paternal concern, "you've been misled. The Jedi are plotting against the Republic. That's why they're removing the chips." Anakin stood firm, his expression unreadable. "The chips override free will, Chancellor. They have no place in a republic that values freedom." For a fleeting moment, Palpatine's mask of calm cracked, but he quickly regained his composure. Palpatine realized, it is time to change his plan. The galaxy watched in stunned silence as Count Dooku's hologram broadcast the live execution of Supreme Chancellor Palpatine. The stage was set on Naboo, the Chancellor's homeworld, against the backdrop of Theed's opulent palace. Palpatine, bound and kneeling, appeared frail but calm. His voice, barely above a whisper, carried a weight of resigned dignity. "I die as a servant of the Republic," he murmured. "My only regret is that I could not protect it from the Separatists' treachery." Dooku stood behind him, a cruel smirk playing on his lips. "The Republic's reign ends today," he announced. "The galaxy will remember this as the moment the Jedi's corruption was laid bare and the Confederacy brought order to chaos." With a theatrical flourish, Dooku ignited his crimson blade and brought it down in a clean arc. The feed cut to static, leaving the galaxy in shock. The Jedi Council convened in solemn silence, the execution of Palpatine sending ripples of unease through the Force. Mace Windu's brow furrowed. The galaxy mourns his loss, but something about this feels wrong. Yoda nodded, his expression grim. Too easily, this played into Dooku's hands. A trap, this may be. Anakin Skywalker stood near the center of the chamber, his jaw clenched. He staged the entire thing. I know it. Palpatine doesn't just get captured. This was planned. Ki-Adi-Mundi folded his arms. We have no proof, Skywalker. The evidence suggests Dooku executed him. The Force may be clouded, but we must proceed cautiously. Despite their reservations, the Council agreed to maintain vigilance. They would watch for signs of Palpatine's hand from the shadows. The galaxy, still reeling from the execution of Chancellor Palpatine, found itself at a crossroads. Into this void of leadership stepped Bail Organa, a voice of reason and compassion amid the chaos. Unanimously elected as Supreme Chancellor, Organa immediately began pursuing a course of diplomacy. Under his leadership, the Republic extended an olive branch to the Separatists. He called for the cessation of hostilities and demanded the surrender of Count Dooku, offering amnesty to systems willing to rejoin the Republic. Though skepticism lingered, his actions began to sow the seeds of hope in a galaxy weary of war. The Jedi, burdened with losses and mistrust, worked alongside Organa to stabilize the galaxy. Anakin Skywalker and his allies became beacons of resilience, striving to uncover the Sith's shadowy plots and root out remnants of corruption within the Republic. Yet, as peace talks began, an unease lingered within the Force. On a distant world shrouded in secrecy, a dark figure stepped into the shadows. Sheev Palpatine, Darth Sidious, was far from gone. The Sith Master, his plans disrupted but not undone, quietly rebuilt his web of influence. Patience was a Sith virtue, and he would wait as long as necessary to seize the galaxy once again. The galaxy was scarred but not broken. For now, hope flickered in the darkness, a light that Palpatine vowed to extinguish when the time was right. Drop the scenarios you would like to see in the comments, and I will pick one every week. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one. What if Commander Cody defied Order 66 to protect Obi-Wan? The battle on Utapau was nearing its conclusion. General Obi-Wan Kenobi had just dispatched General Grievous, the leader of the Separatist droid army, with a well-placed shot from a blaster. The Jedi Master was climbing up the platform, making his way back to the clone battalions, unaware that events across the galaxy were about to change everything. Commander Cody stood with a group of his trusted officers, watching the battlefield calm as the Separatists retreated. He admired Kenobi's bravery and skill, even jokingly calling the Jedi a negotiator when the situation allowed. But as Cody received his new orders, direct from the Chancellor, a sharp, piercing sensation flooded his mind. Execute Order 66. Cody's vision blurred for a moment as the words echoed in his mind. His breathing became ragged as the chip in his brain activated, urging him to turn against his longtime friend. Yet, something deep within him resisted. The bond he had forged with Kenobi, the trust, camaraderie, and respect, clashed with the overwhelming compulsion of the Order. Clenching his fists, Cody muttered, "No. No, this isn't right." The pain became unbearable, and with the last shred of his free will, Cody turned his blaster on himself and fired a stun bolt. The clones around him froze in shock as their commander collapsed to the ground. "What's going on?" asked one of the troopers, confusion etched on his face. "Commander Cody just stunned himself," another said. "We need to alert General Kenobi." Moments later, Obi-Wan arrived, alerted by the commotion. He knelt beside Cody, who was unconscious but alive. The concern in his voice was evident. "What happened here?" "General," Commander Cody fired on himself without warning. "He said something strange right before. Something about it not being right," a clone explained. Obi-Wan furrowed his brow, reaching out with the Force to sense Cody's condition. What he found unnerved him, a dark, mechanical presence clouding Cody's mind. "We need to get him to the medical tent immediately," he said. Cody's body was carefully scanned and monitored in the Republic medical tent. The chief medic frowned at the results. "General Kenobi, there's something embedded in Commander Cody's brain. Some kind of chip, and it's not a normal implant." "What does it do?" Obi-Wan asked. "I can't say for sure, but it's active. And from the looks of it, it's overriding his natural brain functions. It could be a control mechanism." Obi-Wan's expression darkened. "Can you remove it?" The medic hesitated. "It's risky. But if we don't, it could kill him or worse." "Do it," Obi-Wan ordered firmly. The procedure was tense and delicate, but the medical team succeeded. When Cody finally regained consciousness, he looked up at Obi-Wan with a mix of relief and horror. "General, I almost—" Cody stammered, his voice breaking. "You almost what, Cody?" Obi-Wan said gently. "You need to tell me everything." Cody explained the sudden, overwhelming compulsion to kill Obi-Wan, the words, Order 66, echoing in his mind, and the unbearable pain that followed. Obi-Wan paled as he listened. He could feel the anguish rippling across the galaxy through the Force. Something terrible was happening. "We need to leave immediately," Obi-Wan said. "If this Order 66 is being carried out across the galaxy, then no Jedi is safe. We must return to Coruscant." When Obi-Wan and Cody arrived on Coruscant, the Jedi Temple was ablaze with chaos. Operation Nightfall had begun, and the 501st Legion, led by Anakin Skywalker, now Darth Vader, was systematically slaughtering Jedi. Obi-Wan's heart sank as he saw the destruction. "Cody, take the 212th and stop the 501st. Do whatever you can to save the temple." Cody saluted. "Yes, General. Let's move, men." The temple was a battleground of chaos and fire. Obi-Wan moved swiftly through its halls, his lightsaber illuminating the darkened corridors where shadows danced with a flicker of blaster fire. He could feel Anakin's presence growing stronger, darker, pulling him toward the training halls where the younglings once practiced. Cody's voice crackled over his comm link. "General, the 212th is holding the 501st at bay. Appo's forces are retreating, but they're putting up resistance near the archives. Boyle's leading the charge to push them out." "Good work, Commander," Obi-Wan replied, his tone grave. "Hold the temple. I'll handle Anakin." Obi-Wan moved with determination through the burning corridors of the Jedi Temple, his mind racing with the unthinkable truth. Anakin Skywalker, the Chosen One, had turned against them. The once noble warrior was now hunting down his own kin, wielding his blade with a ferocity that sent ripples of anguish through the Force. Ahead, Obi-Wan felt the dark presence growing stronger, a storm of anger and pain that was unmistakably Anakin. He stepped into the great hall leading to the younglings' training quarters, the firelight casting ominous shadows on the walls. At the far end stood Anakin, his lightsaber ignited, its glow haunting the room. "Anakin!" Obi-Wan called out, his voice firm but tinged with sorrow. Anakin turned slowly, his eyes burning with the yellow hue of the Sith. "You shouldn't have come, Obi-Wan. This ends here." "It doesn't have to," Obi-Wan replied, igniting his own lightsaber. "Stop this madness, Anakin. The Jedi are your family. We are your family." Anakin's lips curled into a sneer. "Family? The Jedi took everything from me. My freedom, my choices. Palpatine showed me the truth." "The truth?" Obi-Wan shook his head. "You mean the lies of a Sith Lord? He's manipulating you, Anakin. Open your eyes." Anakin's only response was a furious charge, his blade arcing toward Obi-Wan in a strike filled with rage. The clash of their lightsabers reverberated through the grand hall, each strike a testament to the deep bond they once shared, and the rift that now divided them. Obi-Wan fought with the precision of a master, his movements deliberate and defensive, while Anakin unleashed his raw power with relentless aggression. "Why, Anakin?" Obi-Wan demanded as he parried a heavy blow. "Why did you turn against us?" "I did what I had to," Anakin snarled, his strikes growing wilder. "The Jedi were weak, bound by rules that held them back. Palpatine promised me power, the power to save her." Obi-Wan dodged a vicious slash, his heart aching at the realization. "Padme? Is this about Padme?" "Anakin, you're being deceived. Whatever he promised you, it's a lie. You don't understand." Anakin roared, driving Obi-Wan back with a flurry of strikes. "I saw her die, Obi-Wan. I saw it in my dreams. I won't let that happen." Obi-Wan blocked the onslaught, his own strength faltering under the weight of Anakin's desperation. "You're letting your fear control you, Anakin. This isn't the way to save her. It's the way to destroy her." The words struck a chord, but Anakin pushed the doubt aside, his blade igniting with renewed fury. "I'll do whatever it takes." Their fight carried them through the training quarters, their blades carving scorch marks into the walls. Obi-Wan leaped onto a raised platform, using the high ground to press the attack. "Listen to me, Anakin," Obi-Wan pleaded. "It's not too late to turn back. You can still stop this madness." Anakin growled, leaping to meet him. "I'm doing what you never could, bringing peace to the galaxy." The duel reached a fever pitch, their movements a blur of blue. With a powerful force push, Obi-Wan sent Anakin sprawling. "Peace?" Obi-Wan gasped, his voice breaking. "You've brought nothing but pain and death." Anakin staggered to his feet, his lightsaber trembling. The rage in his eyes flickered, replaced by uncertainty. Their battle ended in a tense stalemate, both warriors battered and breathing heavily. Obi-Wan extended a hand. "Anakin, it's over. Please, stop this." Anakin hesitated, his resolve faltering. The weight of his actions pressed down on him, and for the first time, he looked around. He saw the path he had carved through the temple with clarity. All the dead Jedi, the frightened faces of the younglings that he came to destroy. He extinguished his blade, falling to his knees. "I've made a terrible mistake," he whispered. Obi-Wan stepped forward, placing a hand on his shoulder. "We can fix this, Anakin. Together." Cody's voice crackled over the comlink. "General, the temple is secure. The 501st has retreated, but Appo's regrouping outside the gates. We'll deal with them later," Obi-Wan replied. "Right now, we need to focus on stopping Palpatine." Anakin looked up, his expression one of anguish. "He's behind all of this, Obi-Wan. The war, the clones, the Sith. It's all been him." "Then we'll bring him to justice," Obi-Wan said firmly. As they prepared to leave the temple, Yoda appeared, his small figure radiating calm despite the chaos around them. "Much pain, I feel, but hope there is." Obi-Wan nodded. "Master Yoda, we need your help. Anakin and I are going to arrest Palpatine. Will you join us?" Yoda's gaze shifted to Anakin, his expression unreadable. After a moment, he nodded. "Together, we must face him. Alone, divided, too strong he is." The trio left the temple, their mission clear. As they approached the Senate, Obi-Wan felt a sense of foreboding. Palpatine's reach extended far beyond what any of them had imagined, and they would need to tread carefully. In the shadows of Coruscant, Cody regrouped with the 212th, rallying his men for the battles ahead. The clones, once pawns of a grander scheme, now stood united against the tyranny of the Sith. But even as the light began to pierce the darkness, Palpatine's influence loomed. The Sith had waited for centuries, and though his plans had been disrupted, he would not fall without a fight. Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Yoda stood together, ready to confront the man who had orchestrated it all. The battle for the galaxy was far from over, but for the first time in years, there was hope. Drop the scenarios you would like to see in the comments, and I will pick one every week. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you in the next one.